Day 7,432 on prep for this batch. So finally, I think we're to hole drilling time. So I got some holes marked. No, I don't have holes marked. I got marks for holes that I'm gonna drill in this tang. Let's see. After that, can finally get to laying out the grinds, marking the blades. I gotta stamp them. I stamp them cold. Just easier than stamping them hot, especially with a varied grind. I don't have a good clamp up, so it doesn't matter. I stamp them cold, and so I put the Turley stamp on them, and I put the serial numbers on the sides. And then, so after that gets all done, then it's time to grind. Finally. Center punch. Automatic center punch. I think that's what they're called. Drill press. I know that's what it's called. 9/64 drill bit. That's for the loveless bolts that I use. That's for the bolt itself. Provides just no. I don't remember what the bolt shank size is, but you probably don't even care about this. Anyway, that's what I'm doing. I know. 8th grade humor. It's vulgar, it's unintelligent. I know all these things, but I still can't keep it from going through my brain. That way, if you come to the shop or you come to a meet and you meet me in person, you won't be disgusted. You can just be disgusted on these videos and then tune out. You won't ever have to worry about you coming to a meet and being uncomfortable or coming to the shop and being like, wow, this is a mistake. This way you know what you're getting up front. Sometimes these videos may feel a little bit out of order, like, during the video itself, it might be like, I do one operation and then later on I'm talking about doing that operation, but I've already done it. That's because the software that I use to edit this just like uploads it randomly. And I forget where things go sometimes. So that's that. You guys are smart though, you'll figure it out. Howdy. Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. This task force does not owe me a dime. I think I bought this probably, well, I know I did. I bought it when I started making knives in 2006. So that's what, 18 years ago? 18 years. I think I paid $100 for it at Lowe's. And it's still going. I wouldn't say it's going strong, but it's going. I think all I really need to do is put a new belt on it. Well, there's other problems, but anyway, you can't go wrong with a good old task force. And I'll lay out the grinds, and then after that, we'll mark them, and then hopefully do some grinding. But I gotta stop and think because this is where I usually forget something. That's like people ask me like, hey, can I get such and such option? A big one is, so when there's a pommel plate on a knife back here, like a Green River, when I put a pommel plate on those, sometimes I'll put a spacer of a different color, to match the handle in front of the spacer. So it'll be a spacer, then the pommel plate. But I don't do that often enough to remember it. I've had people get mad at me before. That one guy said that it was very unprofessional that I wouldn't offer that spacer for his order, that I might forget it. I said, I'll do it. I said, but you don't have to take the knife if I don't remember to put it in there. And he flipped out on me. He said, you should be a professional. You shouldn't forget things like that. Well, there's a lot of things I should do and shouldn't do, but that don't mean it's gonna happen. And that ain't no reason to get mad. Just say, hey, it's not for me, I'll move on. But just should and shouldn't ain't enough for me to stop doing something or to start doing something. Anyway, I forget things. So I don't take orders on a lot of things because even though I've written it down on my thing and I highlighted it, it doesn't mean that I'm gonna remember to look at that and do it. I get in a groove and I do things the way I always do it, and then I'm like halfway done, past the point of no return, and I'm like, oh crap, I forgot that spacer. Hey man, I'm human. Okay, so Dicam, I keep referring to her, Dicam is this stuff. This isn't, that Dicam's a brand. This is a Starrett layout die. All it is a layout die. That's this blue color that you see on everything. That way I can put this die on it and then lay out my grind line. This stuff will get you buzzing if you don't watch out. It's pretty loud. Got a real chemically smell for you. Probably ain't good for you. Okay, now for the exciting part of laying out the grind lines. I need to make sure that the grind height starts out the same on each side. Can you see that? So I mark my grind height. I'm going to show you the difference here. Here's a varied grind. Hopefully you can see that line. That's the grind line that I scribed there. But then I'll show you the commando grind. And the commando grind just means it's double edged. So it's going to have a sharp top edge and a sharp main edge. But you can see the difference in the layout lines here. The top grind comes down here to the point, whereas the bottom grind is a varied grind. It comes up here higher. So depending on what you decide to do when you grind these, you can grind that top grind first, and it gives it kind of a down swept look because you grind this main bevel. Secondly, how do I explain this? This material is already gone and ground down to a bevel. So then you're gonna see this bevel more prominently than this bevel. But if you grind the other way, if you grind this varied grind first up to this line, then it's gonna be a more prominent look than the top grind. All right, now let's talk about marking them. I stamp my knives instead of etch them. I used to etch them with like a etch-o-matic, you know, that whole chemical solution. You gotta turn your hat backwards too for this operation. But I went to stamping because I don't know really why. Oh, because the etching, back at that time I couldn't figure out how to really get a good clean etch. I think I could do it better now, but anyway, I went to stamp because I felt it was cleaner and more crisp looking. And it is, but I don't have a press, so I do it with a hammer by hand. And sometimes it's not very crisp, and sometimes it's double stamped, and so it has its problems too. You could do it hot, but I'll show you why doing it hot with these odd grinds is not very conducive because of the setup time to get the angles right for the stamp and all that. Yeah, so let's do some stamping. All right, so here's the stamping setup I got. There's a plate here that is screwed down to the bench. There is two pieces of, I don't know what they are, 3/8 inch steel, or just regular mild steel bars. And then I got a 1, 2, 3 block on top of that. I've clamped down the bars so they don't move as much. And then I've clamped the blade down to the bench. And then I got my stamp here, and I put it up against this 1, 2, 3 block and adjust the depth that way. And I just hammer it with a 3-pound sledge, 2-pound or whatever this is. And that usually happens because it releases the clamp. That's all right. Got a good clean mark. Can it be seen? Hopefully, I don't know. I can't see in that camera, so hope it can. Anyway, that's a good clean stamp. And now we'll stamp the opposite side, and see, that's what I mean about the varied grind. If I try to stamp this hot, in other words, when it comes out of the kiln at, you know, say you stamp it at 1500 degrees, it's going to leave a deeper impression. But getting all that in there while that blade is hot and trying to get this stamp on there, it's a recipe for getting hurt and going to the hospital. I've done it a couple times, but I don't recommend it. And I mark it with an SS because of Randall, Bo Randall. He used to mark his, and they still do. They mark their knives with an S for stainless, and the old ones I think had some SS marks on it back in the day. About everything I do is inspired by Randall in some way or another. There she is. Now those leave a deeper impression because they're single stamps. There's not as much surface area to absorb the blow, so they go deeper. All right, so then I go back. I gotta go do all the other knives, mark them all the same way, except for the PSKs. They don't have a serial number. They just have a Turley stamp on them. But I go back and look at my cards because I have a mixture of steels in there of 01 and 154 cm, and so I don't remember what's what. So I have to go back and make sure I check again and see if there's anything else in there that's stainless, and lo and behold, there was. I'd already forgotten. You hadn't, but I had. But this is stainless steel, so I got to mark this one the same way. Here's a good illustration of how much the edge drops on my knives. So you can see this is the straight grind line of the varied grind. So it's lined up straight with this piece of steel, and you can see how much drop there is there. So there's the dragon with its mark. And then over here, that's number 33. They got a little off, but sometimes that's just the way it is. Sometimes I've done marks upside down. I've done really hard to read marks like that, and not proud of it. It's just with the setup I have, it's just not easy to get it exactly the same every time, or even sometimes even close. So that's why I'm thinking about going back to the etch again. And the other reason I forgot to tell you, one of the other reasons that I didn't do etching anymore, or that I went to the stamp was, sorry, I got sick of holding the camera out there. Another reason I went to stamping instead of etching was, I just remembered this, is because of the stencils. Back in the day, as far as I know, almost all of us knife makers got them from one source, and it was this kind of grouchy old dude that you'd send your mark off to, and you're like, yeah, I'll get it, or you might not hear from him for 3 weeks, and then it might just show up in the mail one day, or he might email you and say, hey, I forgot, or whatever, I don't remember. Anyway, all I remember was it was kind of a hassle, and it was kind of expensive. Now that they have these Crickets, the cutting machines, I have one of those that I've never used. So I'm thinking, of course, I'll be able to just make all the marks that I want right off the bat. But anyway, I'm gonna go with the Cricut and try to do some stencils with that. And then if that works, which I've seen other knife makers do it works. But if I can get it to work, then I'll have a lot more variability on, whatever kind of mark I want to make, and it will look good because it'll be machine made instead of Turley made. What was I gonna say? I don't remember. Oh well. All right, now we gotta do some more mathing. So now I need to find the edge, the center of the edges, so I can grind to that center line. So my edge won't be off one way or the other. That's the goal anyway. That's the hope. So there's where our mathing comes in. So we gotta divide 0.176 in 2. So can I do that in my head? Let's see, 8 would be 16. 1 goes down, and then 17. 0.88. Would that be right? Let's just see. By golly, let's just see. 0.88. Oh, 0.88. 0.88 be 16. 176, right? Or did I just will that to come out that way? Sometimes I don't know. Oh yeah. Dead on, boys and girls. Just like that, we're ready for grinds. Just like that. Yeah, days later. Try a little something this go around, a little something different. I'll get you up there where you can see my beautiful face. Chill out, I know it's not beautiful. I was being sarcastic. What was the other thing I was gonna say? Oh, what was I telling you? What I was telling you was, I'm gonna try a little something different for my plunge lines. My plunge lines sometimes leave a little to be desired. I know it. I know. It's not an unknown. tried different things over the period of years and have never really felt like I've got it down. So I saw another knife maker do it, and I think a lot of people do it this way, so I'm behind the curve on everything, but they used a flat tool rest and a flat platen, or platen, I say platen, I know it's wrong, but that's the way I say it. Flat platen with a file guide. So I'm thinking I can get on this and I can kind of look down on it and see a little better. I don't know, we'll see. Come in here real close, let me show you this. All right, so I've lined it up to where the grind line is roughly perpendicular to the belt. You probably saw this coming and didn't tell me. They don't fit. All right, so now let's go back to freehanding it. I don't know, I feel like I might be a little cross-eyed too. That looks all right, I think. I feel like I got lucky on this one though. Let me try another one and see what happens. Okay, this here was a little bit touch and go, a little dicey. I'll show you why. Okay, what I've done here is I have screwed up. I have taken this grind down on both sides past the tip. So that's gonna throw everything off, because when I grind this straight line, it's gonna have this, it's gonna be funky. It looks funky if whenever you have a straight grind line here and it comes to a stop, but then there's extra grind above it. How you fix that is you move the grind line. So I'm gonna move the grind line down here about, what is that? Is that an 8? I don't know, whatever that is. And that's how you fix it. So if you ever find yourself thinking, you know what, I ought to just see if Iz wants to build a replica of a knife, like a, you know, whatever, a K-bar or whatever. That's good evidence right there of why you should never do that. I can't even follow my own patterns and guidelines. Everything is modified to work. Because inevitably I'm gonna probably foul something up and have to modify it. So that's why, that's the handmade aspect. That's where the handmade aspect comes from. There's a lot of screw ups that get fixed. I do appreciate you guys watching. You're never gonna hear me say, except for now, you're never gonna hear me say, like, subscribe, what's the other thing, thumbs up. I don't, you're smart enough to do that if you want to. I would appreciate the subscription, but yeah, you know what to do if you want to. But I do appreciate you watching. That's it for this one. Hopefully I'll see you guys on the next one. Hopefully you're not sick of me rambling and acting like a goof. If you are, I apologize.